We are preparing to take an epic trip out west in our Jeep pulling our camper, but we're a little worried about communication, so we really want to make sure we have good cell service out there. So we've decided that we're going to add a cell phone booster to the vehicle.
We decided to install the HiBoost Travel 3.0 Explorer X cell phone booster. The box shows multiple ways that you can kind of put it up on your Jeep. However, the bracket itself has to kind of mount around something, so I had to figure out how to use it. I determined that I was going to mount it somehow on the spare tire holder. Looking at the spare tire holder, I wanted to find a place where I could somehow attach it that it would be very solid. There was a lot of different ways I could do it. You can see there's a hole there. I was thinking, could I put a bolt in? Could I use pieces of like an old microphone stand that I had? So I was kind of figuring it all out. I decided to use a boom piece off a microphone stand that I had that was very, very solid because I wanted it to be very sturdy. I cut the boom stand to the right length so that it wouldn't be too long for the back of the Jeep. I then determined placement on the spare tire holder and had to figure out how I was going to connect it to keep it up there and keep it solid. I decided on some U-bolts that would really cinch it down and hold it tightly. I painted the U-bolts black so that they would blend in nicely, and I secured them tightly.
So we left off on this post, and what I've done, this is a piece of a microphone stand that I kind of snagged up. I cut it a little bit shorter, put it on with a couple of U-clamps. It is good and solid. I ran it through the car wash. I did all kinds of stuff just to make sure that it was going to be good. So that's going to be the basis of our antenna that we're going to run. So now what we have to do is we have to run the antenna and all the different pieces. So let's go over to the pile and let's look at that. All right, so we have several pieces that I've already begun to put together here, and it's so easy to do, I'm not going to take it apart just to show you, but you have the antenna, which is the top piece here. You have one big solid piece that comes in. You have one more small piece that the wire can come through. Then you have the spring and the base. So basically you're fishing this line through. Now, quick tip, it comes with this protector on the end. Take that off, it goes through everything way easier if you take that off. So basically once you get these are very simple, they're all just threaded, they screw together. So this is a very simple piece to put together. Now our next step is going to be, once we get this screwed together, is to go mount the antenna onto the pole where we want it. Now they do give you one additional little piece, which is kind of nice, which is kind of a protector to keep things from bouncing up like against your window. So you clip it onto the post. I think this will fit around my other post as well, and basically just keep things from hitting the window of the car and possibly cracking it. There's a couple of different mounting choices that you have when you go to put these on. You've got different brackets. So you've got a bracket that's kind of got like a two thing if you need it offset possibly, or a single, and it looks like it will encircle a bigger pole. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go over and decide which one of these probably is best for us to use. Now the other thing I have to consider is that this pops and this goes down. So if I go down with this, what I want this to do is to be out of the way of anything and not sticking out. So if I was to mount it this way when it was down, let me see, if I was to mount it this way when it was down, you can see it would stick out a long ways. But if I mount it on this side, right here, okay, on this side, it's mostly protected, so I don't have to worry about it sticking way out and grabbing onto things. So now, if I go in the center, I would use this, and that would put me right about there. Now, if I use this, and I come out one, I can come out a little further from the window, which I might prefer to do, and because this is a little bit smaller groove, it seems to fit this pole a little bit better than this one does. So I think I'm gonna go with this bracket going on the inside, offsetting it a little further out from the back of the vehicle. A couple different size bolts that come with these. So I'm trying to decide which one is going to fit, and see, this is gonna have a gap in it. So the small ones, they're gonna be, if I can get it in my hand correctly, small one's gonna be a little too small, so I'm gonna have to use the bigger ones. A couple other of accessories they give you some of these little silicone pads to put on. And what those do is they keep the, one, they give you some vibration kind of protection. And then they also provide a better grip. They give you some little tape here that's kind of like a gooey, almost like a butyl tape or something, I guess, if you're screwing it directly into a roof or something. And these little pads don't stick. So in an effort to be able to have my hands free enough, what I'm doing is I'm stealing a little piece of that, pushing it down onto the surface that I want this little silicone pad to stick, and then pushing that onto there just because I don't have enough hands to hold everything. So for these mounting screws, I'm going to do them hand tight to begin with. There's a flat washer that I'm going to put on first. Then there is a locking washer, and then the nut. So I'm going to try to get 2 of those ready, kind of get it in place, get it hand tight, just so I can have it hanging on there. I don't think I can do it with my hand. All right, so put this bolt in, but I tried to put it in the other way because I was hiding it behind this on the backside, but this is in the way, so I had to go through that way. So I've got 2 more to put in and try to get that just kind of gentle, and then I can adjust it up and down. That's gonna have to come down. All right, so I want this to be just a couple inches lower than my air conditioning on my rescue wagon because I don't want this clipping on something that's not clipping on, and I know how tall that is. All right, so we got the antenna mounted, which I think is probably one of the most difficult pieces on this, just from the engineering standpoint of you trying to figure out exactly how it's gonna go on your stuff. So we're gonna move on to the next part where we're gonna run the wires and hook up the actual booster itself. All right, so the next step is to come into the car. So there's a couple things we contemplated. You hook on your additional line here. We contemplated coming through where the light comes in and going through the tailgate and all the stuff, but we really don't want it that permanent because we may want to take it off and put it on the truck depending on where we're going, what we're doing. So what I'm going to do is you can get these little sticky tabs online at Amazon, and basically they're little squares, and you can run a zip tie through it and it'll hold the wire. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one right inside this right inside where the window is, and I'm going to stick it down, and I've used a little alcohol to wipe it off with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this and zip tie the wire right there. Now it's going to be hanging loose back here, other than where I've zip tied it to the line. And the idea is that when I shut it, if I go across here, I get a bunch of noise. I tried that, and like if I put it over on this side, I get a bunch of noise. So I'm thinking that if I go in kind of in this little crevice right here, there's enough rubber covering it, I'm not going to get as much noise. So I'm going to try that, and I'm actually going to drive down the road, see if I get a bunch of noise or not. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these little black sticky tabs to go down. They have white colored ones with stuff that come with the actual package, but who wants white when you have a black interior? So I'm going to use the black. Nice thing about these tabs is you can kind of just put it through and then zip tie your stuff down to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of zip tie this, not super duper tight, but snug. And then I'm going to shut this back and forth and see how well it does, because I kind of want it to ride through there. All right, so to understand kind of where we're going, we're coming off the antenna. We're coming in through the vehicle, coming into this box. This box also has to have power. Then it's got to come from here and go up to where the phone is. Now, in a perfect world, I would normally probably have this box right back here where I have my cigarette lighter accessory. However, I have a fridge that we bring with us every time, and the fridge to me is more important really than anything. So I've got to be able to tap this into some power. The one that I have up front, I actually use for the rear view camera. So now I'm kind of left without power for this. So what I've done is I've got a USB adapter that I already had that went to a cigarette lighter. So I'm actually using the USB connector inside my little glove box to connect in and put this in. It's got a little switch. I can turn it off and on. That way when I'm driving, I can turn my rear view camera on and off in my cigarette lighter. And now right next to me, coming out of my center console, and it's got a little nook for it, which is pretty cool, I can press that button to turn the booster on and off as needed. So this line coming in, I'm going to use some of my little squares initially till I get up to the carpet. And then we're going to go into the carpet. I don't want to stick it to the white because if I take off the top, then I got a problem. So with the Jeep, luckily, the carpet comes out pretty easily. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down through this carpet. I'm just going to pull out just enough to basically get this wire underneath it, okay? I'm going to run down this line, and we're going to get this line right here up underneath that seat, because that's where we're going to place this box.
I continued to run the wire from the antenna along the Jeep through the carpet up into underneath the seat. I then ran the wires for the receiver from the top of the dash all the way down under the seat as well, so that the antenna and the receiver could screw in to the receiver box.
All right, so we've got both of our cables coming out underneath here now. Now this is the adapter I was talking about. Okay, it's a cigarette lighter adapter. There's a USB port inside my little glove box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this cord down. This will plug into the cigarette lighter. There's my on-off switch. That way I can turn the booster on and off basically and just have it sitting inside my thing. It's also got this little divot here for running the cable, so that's kind of nice. So basically going to run this cable down behind, and then once I get the cables down underneath, I'm going to plug them in and then just try to kind of wrap them into something and put a little cable tie on them, not a zip tie. Now that we've run the cables, we've got a cable that goes to the receiver from the inside. We've got a cable that goes to the outside transmitter, and we've got a power cable. Now it's time to connect them into our box. So for the indoor, that's going to be our small cable here. That is your receiver that sits on the dash. We're going to tighten that down snug. Then we've got the outdoor. That is for the receiver that we mounted on the back. I mean the transmitter that we were mounted on the back. Okay, and then we have a power cable. It's going to go to DC in. And what we're going to do is we're going to tuck our wires up underneath with our box. All right, so from everything I've heard and read about the transmitter, the closer to your phone it is, the better it is. I was thinking, okay, well, if it's in your car, but a lot of the people that were testing these out, they had they're right next to their phone, like right next to it. So what I'm going to do is right behind the cell phone holder, I'm going to mount this, and I'm just going to use some, what do you call it, command strips, so I can kind of peel it off of the Velcro part if I needed to. All right, so that's the installation. So now it's something we're probably going to want to go try and see how it works. All right, so now our next step is going to be download the Signal Supervisor app and register with the ID and booster. All right, so we got it all set up. Use the app to get it in place. You don't have to have the app on your phone or running as long as you're in the service area. It does boost your signal. So it's working good, and we are super pumped, and we think that this is going to be great on our big long trip. So remember, doing things yourself allows you to save money, allows you to have extra coverage, and it also allows you to be free. See you in the next project.